one thing I can do with my new information is I can determine the relationship between lines. So here I'm going to determine the relationship between the two lines that I'm given. The lines can be parallel, my first choice, right? Look like this. Well, that wasn't a great drawing, but they look parallel, they never meet. They can be perpendicular, right? Meaning they meet at a 90-degree angle, right? That's another option of what the lines could look like. They could be the same line, that's my third choice. And what that means is that the equations actually are exactly the same, and so it's like a line and then the same line just on top of it, right? And so that's one option. And then the other option is none of the above, which would mean they're not parallel, they're not perpendicular, not the same line, they just, they just intersect and not at a right angle, and they're none of the above. So let's take a look. I'm going to do some examples, and then you're going to try this. Let's take a look at the first one. So my key is to look at the slopes first. So I notice here's a slope, here's a slope. So I have a slope of 3/4 and a slope of -4/3. And what I notice is that if I take 3/4 and I flip it over and I change the sign, I end up with -4/3. So those are opposite reciprocals, and so these lines are perpendicular. Let's go here. Again, I have y equals mx plus b, so this is my slope. Y equals mx plus b, this is my slope. And so here, I notice I have a slope of 1/3. And I notice this slope is different, and so I was like, okay, well, is it going to be perpendicular? Well, if I were to flip this over and then change the sign, I would get -3, which is not +3. So these are not perpendicular. Okay, be careful. They have to be opposite reciprocals. These are reciprocals, but they're not opposite. This is none of the above. If they're not parallel, they're not perpendicular. I could just sketch this, right? A slope of 1/3 looks something like this, and a slope of 3 looks something like this. So these are just lines that intersect. They're not parallel or perpendicular. Let's look at another one. Here, my slope isn't as clear to me, right? I actually here, this is standard form. So in order to get a slope, I'm going to have to rearrange here, right? So I need y by itself. So in order to get y by itself, let's see, I'm going to add 5x to both sides. I get y equals, this is 5x plus 7. And so now I'm good. Right now this is y equals mx plus b. And I can see my slope is 5. And then over here, maybe you recognize point slope form, which is great. And that means you can pull the slope out here, and you notice they have the same slope. And so you're probably thinking, oh, they have the same slope. They're parallel. But be careful. And here's why. I'm going to show you why you should be careful. I'm going to change this into slope-intercept form. 5x plus 5. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Oops, this doesn't cancel. Plus 5 plus 2. So this is y equals 5x plus 7. Okay, so notice they have the same slope. So parallel was a reasonable assumption, but they also have the same y-intercept. These are actually the same line, right? Here's 5x plus 7, and here's 5x plus 7. They just lie right on top of each other. Okay, so just be careful. When you get the same slope, it's not a guarantee that they're parallel. Sometimes they're the same line. So just watch for it. Be careful. Here, y equals 7 and x equals -5. These, you look at these and you think, okay, y equals 7. Like here, let me just sketch a graph. Y equals 7 is, if I go to the y-axis, if I go to 7, and I'm just going to pretend that's 7, it's this line. Right? It's this line where all these y values are 7. It's like 1, 7, 2, 7, 3, 7. So this is the line y equals 7. And the line x equals -5 is, over here I'm going to go on the x-axis to -5. And this is, this is -5, 0, this is -5, 1, this is -5, 2, this is -5, 3. So the line x equals -5 is here. And so these are perpendicular lines. And that will always be true for equations like this, y equals 7 and x equals -5. And if I had two, let's say I had two equations that were like y equals something, like y equals 7 and y equals 3. Those would be parallel, right? That would be these two lines. Okay, but it's something good to remember is just when it's y equals, it's going to be a horizontal line. And when it's x equals, it's going to be a vertical line. So if you have 1 and 1, then they're going to be perpendicular. If you have 2 of these, they're going to be parallel. If you have 2 of these, they're going to be parallel. Okay? So it's your turn to try. And then please just notice, right, a lot of these are not in slope-intercept form. So, right, some of them are like this one is, this one's not. This one is, this one's not. So just make sure that you rearrange any that aren't in slope-intercept form so that you can really see the slope and the y-intercept.